Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney is back in the global conversation, and this time it's not for confronting Trump. It's for outplaying both Washington and Beijing in a single calculated move. While most of the world is locked in arguments over tariffs and trade wars, Carney is setting up a different kind of game, one where Canada comes out ahead no matter who backs down first. China has just put an unexpected deal on the table. Eliminate Canada's 100% tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles, and they'll remove their heavy-handed tariffs on Canadian canola. It's an attractive offer for struggling farmers, but it's also a move loaded with global consequences. Rather than responding immediately like many expected, Carney made a smarter choice. He didn't accept, he didn't reject. He simply said enough to keep everyone watching and every option on the table.
China's ambassador to Canada has said that if you lift the EV tariffs, China will lift its canola oil tariffs. Will you, or canola tariffs? Will you, yes or no? And China is clearly exploiting the canola sector's reliance on its export market. Wouldn't it be naive to expand the trade relationship with that country, given that?
Well, there's a lot packed into that question, but let me take the last bit and build out from it, which is that we get a lesson from the trade actions of the United States over the last this year. Trade actions such as the canola tariffs that you just referenced, of the danger of overdependence on single trade partners, first point. The second is that in those contexts, we have to look for alignment of incentives and interests as much as possible. That's where it's possible and responsible and fair to workers and fair to our future to have deeper relationships. And that's part of what we're doing with the United States, is Canada determining where can we trust the United States through ups and downs, and in what areas can we do that, and where should we have that exposure. It's a similar process with China. We are restarting broad engagement with China. I'll make a point. I met the Prime Minister, the Premier of China, a few weeks ago. That was the first meeting between the head of the Canadian government and a senior, either the Premier or the President, in 7 years. Of China. This is our second largest trading partner. And so when you have that, and there's reasons for that, but when you have that situation, you end up with these dependencies and these exposures. So to get back to the first part of your question, we have a broader trading relationship with China. There are different levers that we have, or opportunities that we have for China in Canada. We are in the process of having those discussions on a much broader range of issues than single sectors and single trades. And when we look at the auto sector, we take into account the dynamics with the United States, the ongoing negotiations there, and what the potential impact is. So, last point. I met the Prime Minister, the Chinese Prime Minister, a few weeks ago. Our foreign minister, Minister Anand, is arriving in Beijing basically as we speak, and will be meeting with her counterparts. And I expect to meet the senior Chinese leadership in the coming month or so, and we'll continue those discussions, and we'll see where the trade relationship evolves. Thank you.
Next question.
Yes or no, though?
Are you considering it then, lifting the EVs? Like that's the question.
Look, I gave you a proper, comprehensive answer to that. And it's naive to take a relationship that is broader and can broaden and to boil it down to two things that go across. It's a deeper set of conversations that are going on. It's not that simple. Nor is the relationship in the auto sector that simple as just open a door here with China with no impact on the relationship with the United States and the impact on activity here in Canada.
That move? It wasn't hesitation, it was precision. Carney knows exactly what he's doing. Lifting tariffs on Chinese EVs could bring an influx of cheaper, high-quality electric cars into Canada, but it also risks disrupting the deeply connected U.S.-Canadian auto industry. By holding back, Carney wasn't stalling, he was sending a signal straight to Washington. If you keep sidelining Canada, we'll take our business elsewhere. That's not backing down. That's using leverage, and Carney's using it well. Even top Canadian political commentators agree. This isn't just a tariff decision anymore. It's a calculated move to place Canada between the world's two largest powers and do it on Canada's terms.
Jeremy, the Prime Minister stopped short of saying he'll remove tariffs on Chinese EVs in exchange for the removal of Chinese tariffs on canola, which is devastating the industry, particularly in those prairie provinces. So why the hesitancy from the Prime Minister?
Yeah, look, Scott, the Prime Minister is, playing a bit of a balancing act here. To your point, he's facing pressure from prairie premiers specifically in Saskatchewan, Scott Moe, in Manitoba, Wab Kinew, provinces where canola farmers are operating and feeling the impacts of those canola tariffs. They are pressuring the Prime Minister to do exactly what Beijing has offered, which would be to drop the 100% tariffs on EVs in exchange for them to drop those 100% tariffs on canola products. But on the flip side, the Prime Minister is facing pressure here in Ontario from Premier Doug Ford to not make that decision, as well as the auto sector that is already hard hit by, auto tariffs from the U.S. administration. They are making the argument that these Chinese EV tariffs, dropping these tariffs on Chinese EVs, would allow for China to flood the market with its EVs and further have a negative impact on the auto sector here in Ontario. So the Prime Minister is, faced with a difficult decision whether or not to, help one industry or one sector or fight for the other sector. It's a difficult position to be in. And the auto sector has pointed out, understandably, that their position is that to drop these tariffs would just be helping one sector to hurt another sector. And so it's going to be a difficult decision, one way or the other, regarding what the Prime Minister does. Canada took this stance on Chinese vehicles. The past Liberal government took this stance on Chinese vehicles to align itself with Washington, to ensure that they were kind of taking the same approach when it took to the Chinese EV market, as the North American EV market and auto market as a whole has always kind of operated cohesively. But things have kind of changed. Donald Trump and his administration have made it clear they're prioritizing the U.S. Auto sector, not the North American auto sector. And so circumstances, certainly have changed. But it is no surprise that at this point, the Prime Minister is not ready to commit one way or the other, especially given the fact that, despite everything we've already mentioned, he and his government are trying to bolster relationships with China.
It's a balancing act. On one hand, Canadian farmers hoping for relief after years of restrictions on canola exports to China. On the other, a domestic auto sector warning that opening up to Chinese EVs could shake the entire North American supply chain. But Carney's power lies in his restraint. He's not rushing. He's thinking several steps ahead. Instead of slamming the door on China, he's keeping it open just enough to make Washington uneasy. Because if China gets access to Canada's EV market, it wouldn't just be about vehicles. It could undermine the very core of Trump's industrial stronghold: factories, jobs, and political capital. That's why staying quiet might be Carney's boldest move yet. Behind closed doors, his government is already laying groundwork, from diversifying trade routes to rebuilding supply chains. This isn't just about one deal. It's about protecting Canada's economic independence and staying clear of Trump's unpredictable trade tactics. By walking the tightrope between Beijing and Washington, Carney is forcing both to treat Canada as an equal, not a junior partner. And that message? It's getting through loud and clear. It's the same approach Carney used when he refused to bow to Trump's 51st state narrative. Now, he's applying that strategy on a global level, using trade as his weapon of choice. As Trump's team threatens to pull auto jobs south, Carney is moving in another direction, building Canada's own strength. And it's very possible that Chinese EV giants could soon set up shop in Canada, hiring local workers, sourcing local parts, and exporting to North America on Canada's terms. That's not surrender. That's strategic power. Because every threat from Washington seems to be met with a calculated countermove from Carney. With a high-stakes meeting with China's president on the horizon, one thing is becoming clear. This isn't about short-term wins. It's about reshaping Canada's position for the long haul. And if Trump thinks he can box Canada into submission, he might be misreading the board, because this time, it's Canada that's holding the advantage. Carney's silence is making waves around the world. And no matter what decision he makes on tariffs, one thing is certain. Canada isn't reacting to global power plays anymore. It's writing its own. If you believe Canada should lead its own path, not Washington's, hit like, subscribe to Canada Newsline, and drop your take in the comments. Should Carney take the deal? Because whatever he decides next could shape Canada's future.